Hi, my name is Caroline Brotherton. Welcome to Get Cooking. These are the classes we normally do at Duke Dining, but because of the pandemic, we've been sent online, which is fine because you guys can get to watch them, re-watch them anytime you like. Today, I'm teaching you how to make takeout at home, basically. I know that everyone loves to get takeout. It's very popular here. It's also getting increasingly expensive, so unless you want to spend like $15 on a curry, plus tips, plus delivery charge, I'm going to teach you how to make a Thai chicken and coconut curry for two. That will probably come up at about $5. So let's get started. I'm going to start by taking about half a small onion that I've pre-diced here very finely. Just turn my pan on. I'm doing it in a skillet because it helps me to be able to see what I'm doing and you to be able to see what I'm doing as well, so the camera can get in there. You can do it in a little saucepan at home. You don't need a huge amount of space. Preheat that to kind of medium. I'm going to use 1 tablespoon of this very solid coconut oil. Coconut oil is funny. It goes solid when it's cold and it goes runny in the heat. So in the summer, in my kitchen, it turns to liquid. And in the winter, or somewhere cold like here, it's going to get solid like this. But it will melt when it hits the pan. So it's about a tablespoon. You don't need to be too accurate. It's not massively important how much you use. Obviously, you don't use much more, but we're going to melt that down. I might just turn it up so it'll melt more quickly, but then I have to remind myself to turn it down afterwards, otherwise we're in trouble. Right, while I'm getting that hot, I'm going to prepare the next bit, which is 1 clove of garlic and about a kind of big disc of ginger. Again, that can be to taste really, but that's how I like it. So I'm going to show you how to prepare the garlic. You take a knife and you chop the root off like that, and using the flat blade of the knife, just gently. Now, if you're dicing it on the chopping board, you can give it a good smack and it's going to go everywhere. It's fine because it breaks it down. It's easier to dice. But I want to keep this kind of whole because I'm grating it. So I've just smashed it enough to be able to peel it. And there you go. See, that comes off really easily. And with ginger, I don't really bother doing anything fancy. I just trim the skin off with a knife like this. So there's good. While that's happening, I can see that this is now heating up and starting to shimmer slightly. We've got slightly more oil in here than we need because later on other things are going in here. So I'm going to add my onion. And I'm going to give that a little stir around. Okay. Now while that's cooking, I'm going to turn it down slightly. Now you don't want to cook an onion too high because what will happen is it'll start to burn at the edges and it gives it a kind of slightly bitter, acrid taste into the curry. So I'm going to keep my garlic and ginger just over here for a minute and I'm going to show you how to cut the chicken. Now we've got 1 chicken breast here for 2 people. It's quite large. It's a nice organic chicken breast here. And I'm going to cut it this way and then I'm going to cut it that way. So I'm going to get, when you're making a curry or anything like a stew, you need to imagine like how big are the pieces of meat you actually want to eat with your fork. Something you can pick up with a fork, something that matches the vegetables in the dish at the same time. So I'm going to take my knife and run it down there. And then I'm just going to cut about 1 centimeter across slices like this. Okay? So that's fairly standard. And I can smell the coconut oil is starting to smell beautiful. If you don't have any coconut oil, you can easily just use a kind of neutral oil like a sunflower oil or canola oil. I like to use coconut oil in this because it's a coconut curry, so it adds another layer of coconut flavor to the coconut milk we're using later. Okay, those are done, or doing nicely. So I'm going to take my ginger and I'm just going to grate it. It tends to have like a core in the middle. It's quite tough. So if you reach resistance when you're grating, just flip it over, do the other side, and then do both ends like that. And you can throw out that middle bit. Doesn't really matter how much you put in. Again, if you like ginger, put a lot in. If you don't like it, just leave it out. 1 clove of garlic. It's going in there as well. You see my trusty microplane just gathers everything up there. Way easier than trying to clean out one of those garlic crushers, which just I seem to get tangled up in. Okay, we're going to just stir that around. Once ginger and garlic hits the pan, it's really a question of just a minute in the pan. You should be able to smell the kind of aromatics coming off them. As soon as they do that, you can move on. They don't need to look brown or anything because they're going to cook in a second anyway. Okay, I'm going to add my chicken into the pan. And I'm going to pan fry it for like a minute or two on each side. What I want to do now is to see it start to change color. So I'm going to use a pair of tongs or even a fork because it's easier for me to turn them over. I don't want to cook it through at this stage because I'm adding the curry paste in a little while and some coconut milk, but I'm just going to cook it off so it has a nice kind of seared edge. It just needs to change color. See, like this. It doesn't need to be golden brown. It's a very gentle cook, this curry. It really takes like 10 minutes to cook the whole thing. So it should be quite soft in your mouth, the texture of the chicken. If you're using chicken thighs, which I sometimes like to do because I really like the taste, it takes a lot longer. So chicken breast is just quick, easy, and one is perfect for 2 people once you put your vegetables in. Or one very hungry student, obviously, which some of you guys might be. Okay, turning that over, you can see that everything is pretty much cooked on one side. I'm going to turn that down for a second. Sorry, I keep on having to bob under here because this is where the level is. Okay, that will just cook for a minute. I'm going to show you how to prepare the vegetables. You can put any vegetables you like into this. What I like to do is make sure they're cut the same size or similar sizes. They cook through at the same time. So I'm going to use carrots, peppers, and sugar snap peas. Now the carrots will go in first, the peppers a minute later, and the sugar snap a minute later. And then they'll both take a couple more minutes, so 5 minutes after that they're done. So sugar snap peas, you may not know this, but they have a little cord that runs along here. And sometimes, if they're really bad, they have it along here too. So take your knife and pull the top off like this, and then you pull it like that. Can you see? Perfect. And then what I'm going to do is cut it diagonally like that. I'm not going to cut it down the middle, all those little peas will fall out. I'm just going to cut it like that, so it's more chunky, and it's chunky in the curry. So I'm going to do a few of those. Because it's just for, actually it's for 2 people, not 1, but you don't need much of everything. See how I'm just going to get a little bowl to put my trimmings in. I'm just running down both sides now quite quickly, because it's very boring watching me just prepare peas all the time. So we'll do this like that. And then we're going to move on to a pepper. Actually, we're not going to move on to a pepper. I'm going to pause the vegetables. Now that's had enough cooking time. And then we'll go back to them in a minute, because this is actually how you cook at home, I would imagine. Okay, turn this up again. And I'm going to take my Thai curry paste. Now, these come traditionally, you get a green curry, a red curry, and this is a Penang curry, which is my favorite. It's kind of a more aromatic, mild version of a red curry, but you can use any flavor curry paste you like. Again, it's really to taste. If you like a lot, have a lot. But I mean, about a tablespoon, which is about that much for 2 people, is good. Just pop it straight in there once the chicken is cooked off. Looks a bit strange, but it'll make sense in a minute. What we're doing by cooking it sort of in the pan without any liquid at this stage is we're releasing all those aromatics and spices. It should start to darken slightly as it meets the coconut oil and the heat, and that's the paste sort of cooking off. And it's quite important to cook it off because otherwise it tastes kind of raw in the finished dish. It's got stuff like galangal and lemongrass and chilies. It's really, you know, you could make your own, but what's the point, really? It's like they're so good these days. If you go to, you know, an Asian supermarket, you can buy a giant thing for like $5. So, and it keeps forever in the fridge. So, get your chicken nicely coated, like that. Get it kind of smelling. You'll know because it'll start to really smell delicious. I can just smell lemongrass here at this point, which is just lovely. Okay, and then I have here a little mini can of coconut milk. Now, obviously in major supermarkets, they come in bigger sizes, so this is about equivalent to half a can, but in the Asian supermarket, they sell these little tiny ones. This is a particularly good brand. I really like it. It's a really, I don't know, it doesn't separate. It's just really creamy. It's not that expensive, and I like the fact that I can just use these tiny ones. So, pour your coconut milk. into your curry. We're going to bring that to the boil. Just stir it all around there. It's going to start cooking the chicken slowly while I finish the vegetables, and the vegetables are just going to go in bit by bit. Okay. Let's make sure all those bits of curry are nicely amalgamated. Should come to a boil. There we go, not a boil, a bubble. Take it down. We don't want to bubble it too much because the coconut milk will start to thicken too much, and the vegetables are going to add a little bit of liquid as they start to cook into it, so we want a nice texture at the end. Okay, so the next thing, which is actually the first vegetable we're going to use, is a carrot. Carrots are cheap, carrots are easy to prepare, and everyone likes carrots basically. So but it stands up very well to the curry. You need to be sort of thinking about how vegetables will react. So this is quite a firm vegetable. It has a comparatively low water content compared to some of the other ones I'm using, so it goes in first. Right, you have your carrot. This is a very skinny one, but that's okay. Take a little slice off the end like that, and that will help you lay it down flat like that, so it's not going to tip around, you're not going to cut your fingers off. Now at an angle, I want you to cut quite thin slices. These are going to cook through fairly thinly, quickly even. So I'm just going to put that in. That's absolutely fine. Just pop it straight in there. That will start cooking off. Make sure that the vegetables are submerged under the liquid, because for some reason, I don't know if I'm right, but I feel like coconut milk cooks things slower than like boiling water. I don't know because it's more viscous, but it doesn't penetrate them so quickly. So while that's going, we're going to do a little red pepper. I've said this before, but these are great if you're cooking for 1 or 2 people. I might do 2 actually, because there's 2 people eating this. I'll do an orange one as well. Rather than buying a big pepper, you might as well buy a bag of the little ones. They last a long time and they don't deteriorate as quickly as a pepper does once it's cut and kept in your fridge. So to prepare a pepper, you cut the edge off here like that, the top off the sort of sprouting bit, and you can see the kind of ribs in there. This same holds true for a bigger pepper. Bigger peppers, there's way more seeds in them. You can see this one is sad. It has like 2 seeds. Anyway, you pull out this little rib thing and any seeds that are in there. Obviously, no seeds in that one. Let's see what this one's like. There, hardly any. Didn't even get a chance to make seeds. Never mind. Okay. We're going to mimic the shape of the carrots with the peppers. So again, across on the diagonal, fairly thick chunks like that. They're not really thick slices rather than thick chunks. That's a better expression. And we're going to pop those in there. And again, you've got another, lovely orange and red, and everything's very vibrant there. I'm going to turn this up a bit now because the vegetables are going in, so we need a bit more heat. You can play with it. If it gets too thick, you can add a bit of water. If it looks too thin, turn the heat up, bubble it down a bit to reduce it. It's very, very flexible, this curry. We have our snow peas, which aren't going in just yet. I might put a few more in there because I like the green as the contrast. Yeah, we have a low bubble going on there, which is much better. Okay, now, I'm going to wait a couple of minutes before I put the snow peas in because I want to nearly cook the peppers and carrots off, and they need another couple of minutes like this. When it's finished, I'm going to finish it with 3 things. If you were at home or you had access to fish sauce, that would be my 4th thing. But fish sauce is kind of like, are you going to buy it, keep it in your dorm room, use it twice, whatever. If you have some, a little splash of fish sauce at the end is absolutely, definitely what you need. If not, half a lime will do just as well. Also a little bit of cilantro. I have this tiny bunch of cilantro, and I'm just going to cut a little bit off like that to garnish it with. And then, oh yeah, the last thing I like to do, it's not massively traditional, but I like the contrast, is I'm going to take a couple of spring onions, or green onions as you call them here, and I'm going to take off the outer peel, like this, because these are quite old. I actually rescued these from my neighbor's garden. He was throwing them away. He grew like a whole ton of them, and then he threw them away, and I was like, no way, I need those. So anyway, thank you, Adam, for the giant bag of green onions. Okay, this is bubbling nicely here. I know that those other vegetables are nearly cooked, so I'm going to pop my sugar snaps in as well. They need like 2 minutes. They'll continue to cook in the residual heat, so they don't need to be super cooked, and there's nothing quite as nasty as a slimy vegetable when it's meant to be chunky. Okay, so take your green onion, leave the root intact. You've trimmed off the end here, the kind of long, darker green bit, and then take your knife and carefully run it down the middle like that, because that'll help, so you won't get little rings, you'll get little pieces instead. And then just gently dice it like this. Okay, so you got your garnishes ready. Again, fish sauce is a must if you have it. Well, not a must, but if you have it and you like it. It smells disgusting, it tastes delicious, that's all I can say. They make it from tiny little fish which they leave out in the sun to rot, and then they mix it with water, so kind of weird. Okay, so here we have some pre-cooked white rice. I was going to show you guys how to cook rice, but you all have rice cookers, so you don't need to know how to cook rice. That's apparently a thing. I'm going to put a little bit of the cilantro and the green onion in it, just to run it through, because I like, as I would say, some in, some on. So that's my in bit. And I'm going to take a half a portion of this curry, because obviously this is for one person, but there's enough here for two. So, you know, if you're feeding a friend, or if you just want to put some in the fridge and have it another day, you can also freeze it. It may separate the coconut milk a bit in the freezer, but you can always just give it a good whisk in the pan with a little short metal whisk, and it should come back together again. Okay, that looks pretty. I'm going to have a bit of sauce because personally I like sauce a lot. If you were in my family right now, you'd be fighting for the sauce, literally. I have to make double everything. And then just take the green onions and the cilantro. Not too much cilantro because it looks pretty like that. And I'm just going to squeeze that over. And you can serve it also with a little bit of lime like that, so that people can see what it looks like. There, we have a beautiful chicken and coconut creamy Thai curry. Perfect.